Imagine this, a quiet night. Your room bathed in the glow of your phone screen. You decide to make a call, a harmless act, or so you think. But what if that call opens a door, not to another person, but to something far darker? Tonight we explore 5 phone numbers shrouded in mystery, fear, and the supernatural. Each number has a chilling reputation, and for those who've dared to dial them, the results were anything but ordinary. Stay with us as we unravel the truth behind these haunting tales. But remember, curiosity comes with a price. Why people are fascinated with haunted numbers. The allure of haunted phone numbers has captivated people for years, feeding on our deepest fears and fascination with the unknown. The idea of connecting to the supernatural through something as mundane as a phone call feels both terrifying and irresistible. Legends of these cursed numbers have their roots in folklore stories of forbidden communication with spirits, demons, or even death itself. In modern times, the rise of the internet and social media has brought these myths to life, spawning challenges where thrill seekers test their courage and their fate. Videos of these calls often surface online, showing frightened participants claiming to hear whispers, screams, or even voices from beyond the grave. But why do we keep seeking out these experiences, knowing the risks? Perhaps it's our relentless curiosity or a hidden desire to find proof of the unimaginable. Before we begin, let me make one thing clear. What you're about to hear are stories based on reported experiences, urban legends, and accounts passed down through whispers and threads online. While some may dismiss these as fabrications, others swear by their authenticity. Either way, we do not encourage you to call these numbers. These tales are meant to be shared and remembered, not recreated. Sometimes it's better to leave certain mysteries unexplored. Now, as we step into the shadows of these chilling accounts, imagine yourself holding the phone, dialing a number you were warned about, and hearing the line connect. What would you do if the voice on the other end wasn't human? Let's uncover the terrifying truth behind the 5 most haunted numbers you should never, ever call. Haunted number 1, the infamous 666-6666. Among the many numbers that have gained infamy over the years, none is more universally feared than 666-6666. The number itself is steeped in superstition, its association with the devil and the occult stemming from ancient texts and cultural lore. The number 666, often referred to as the number of the beast, is rooted in the Book of Revelation, a biblical passage that describes it as a symbol of evil and ultimate corruption. But this particular sequence 666 goes beyond religious symbolism. For some, it is a direct invitation to malevolent forces, a gateway to a dark realm that few have dared to confront. Stories about this number first began circulating decades ago, whispered between friends and spread like wildfire through urban legends. The tale always begins the same way. A curious individual, often skeptical of the supernatural, decides to test their bravery. They dial the number, expecting silence or perhaps a laughable prank. But what happens next is anything but ordinary. Many claim the line connects immediately, with no ringing at all, as if the call is being answered by something or someone that was waiting on the other end. There are reports of faint, rhythmic breathing, the kind that sends chills down your spine. Others describe guttural growls, unnatural and unearthly. And then there are those who swear they heard their own name being whispered, in a voice they didn't recognize. But the most disturbing accounts don't come from the call itself, they come from what happens afterward. Chilling real-life accounts. One of the most infamous cases involves a man named Robert, an office worker from Michigan. Robert had always considered himself a skeptic, a man of logic and reason. But after hearing about 66666 from a colleague, he decided to call it, dismissing the warnings as mere superstition. According to Robert, the call connected almost instantly. He was greeted by a low, raspy voice that repeated the words, "I see you." Startled, he hung up immediately. But his nightmare had only just begun. That night, Robert began experiencing strange occurrences in his home. Doors that were locked suddenly swung open. The lights flickered without explanation. And then came the shadows, tall, dark figures that loomed in the corners of his vision, disappearing the moment he turned to look. Over the next few days, these apparitions grew more aggressive. Robert claimed he felt their presence behind him, cold breath brushing against his neck. Desperate, he sought help from a local pastor, who performed a blessing on his home. But the shadows persisted, and Robert eventually moved away, leaving everything behind. To this day, he refuses to speak of the incident. Another chilling account comes from a teenager in Japan who dialed the number on a dare. She reported hearing faint whispers in a language she couldn't understand, followed by a loud, blood-curdling scream that caused her to drop the phone. Hours later, she received a text message from an unknown number. It read, "You shouldn't have called." Terrified, she deleted the message, but for weeks afterward, she experienced vivid nightmares of a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed, staring silently. These stories are not isolated. Across the world, countless individuals have shared eerily similar experiences, unexplained phenomena, oppressive feelings of dread, and the sense of being watched. Some believe these events are coincidences, while others are convinced they are the direct result of contacting something beyond our understanding. What is it about 666 that inspires such fear? Is it the power of suggestion, a psychological trick that plays on our subconscious fears of the unknown? It's possible that the act of dialing the number, combined with its sinister reputation, heightens our senses, making us more susceptible to interpreting ordinary occurrences as supernatural. But skeptics can't explain the eerie consistencies in these stories. Why do so many people report hearing whispers, screams, or voices? And what about the lingering effects, the shadows, the nightmares, the unexplained texts? Some researchers argue that these experiences are the result of deeply rooted cultural fears. The number 666 has been ingrained in our collective psyche as a harbinger of doom, and our minds may create these phenomena to validate those fears. But others suggest a more unsettling possibility, that the number itself carries a certain energy, one that acts as a beacon for malevolent forces. Could it be that dialing 66666 truly opens a line of communication, not with another person, but with something far more dangerous? Whatever the explanation, one thing is clear. Those who have called 666 rarely walk away unchanged. Whether it's a trick of the mind or a glimpse into the unknown, the stories surrounding this number continue to haunt those who dare to investigate. And so, the question remains, if you enjoy stories like this and want to hear more, consider subscribing. It helps us create more content like this and lets us know we're reaching the right audience who truly values these messages. On to number 2. Red numbers. What are red numbers? Imagine receiving a call from an unknown number late at night. The screen glows an ominous red, unlike any color you've seen on your phone before. This is what countless people across parts of Asia have reported, and the tales surrounding these red numbers are nothing short of terrifying. According to urban legend, red numbers are more than just calls from unknown sources. They are harbingers of death and despair, sent by something whether human or not that feeds on fear. These numbers allegedly appear without warning, often in the dead of night, with caller IDs displaying strings of digits like 66600, or other sequences tied to dark symbolism. Answering the call is said to unleash a curse, strange illnesses, accidents, and even sudden death within days of picking up. The phenomenon of red numbers first gained widespread attention in the early 2000s, particularly in countries like Pakistan, India, and the Philippines. Stories circulated through word of mouth, then through text chains and social media, warning people to avoid answering calls from these ominous numbers. Some claimed that the calls emitted high-frequency sounds capable of damaging internal organs or triggering fatal heart attacks. Others believed the calls were a direct line to something far more sinister. While skeptics dismiss these tales as baseless rumors, the fear surrounding red numbers persists. And when we dig deeper into the stories, it's hard not to feel a chill run down your spine. Notable stories. One of the most unsettling accounts involves a teenager named Alia from the Philippines. The story goes that Alia, like many of us, often stayed up late texting friends and scrolling through social media. One night, her phone rang an unknown number. But instead of the usual black and white display, the caller ID glowed a deep, unnatural red. Curious and slightly unnerved, Alia answered. She later described hearing what sounded like chanting, but it wasn't in a language she recognized. The voice was low and rhythmic, growing louder with each passing second. Suddenly, the call ended abruptly, leaving Alia shaken but unsure of what had just happened. That night, Alia began experiencing vivid nightmares. In one, she found herself standing in a vast, empty field under a blood-red sky. A shadowy figure appeared in the distance, growing closer with every blink. When she woke up, She discovered deep scratches on her arm, scratches she couldn't explain. Over the next week, strange things started happening around her home. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut without warning, and she often felt the sensation of being watched. Her health began to deteriorate rapidly. Doctors couldn't find a cause, and within 2 weeks, Aliyah passed away. Her family, distraught and searching for answers, linked her sudden decline to that mysterious call. Another chilling tale comes from a man in Pakistan who claimed he received a red number call while driving late at night. Upon answering, he heard nothing but static, followed by what sounded like a distant scream. Moments later, his car lost control, veering off the road and narrowly avoiding a fatal crash. Shaken, he recounted seeing a shadowy figure standing at the edge of stands, watching him as he crawled out of the wreckage. He later swore the figure had no face, just a blank void where its features should have been. There are countless variations of these stories, but they all share common elements: the glowing red numbers, the sense of dread, and the strange, often tragic events that follow. Whether these tales are mere coincidences or something darker, they've left an indelible mark on those who've experienced them. Technology or supernatural? So, what could explain the phenomenon of red numbers? Some believe the answer lies in technology. It's no secret that phone scammers and hackers often use unknown numbers to target unsuspecting individuals. The glowing red display could be a trick, perhaps an error in certain phone systems, or a deliberate tactic designed to create fear. High-frequency sounds, like those described in some reports, could be artificially generated, causing temporary disorientation or even physical harm. But while these theories might explain some incidents, they fall short of addressing the more supernatural elements. How do we explain the chance, the nightmares, the sense of being watched? And what about the uncanny timing of accidents and deaths following these calls? Could it be that the red numbers serve as a conduit away from malevolent entities to reach out and wreak havoc? Some paranormal researchers suggest that objects like phones, which emit electromagnetic energy, may act as beacons for spirits or otherworldly forces. In this view, red numbers aren't just random calls, but deliberate attempts to connect with the living. Whether rooted in technology or the supernatural, one thing is certain: the fear of red numbers is real, and the stories surrounding them continue to spread. They remind us of how something as ordinary as a phone call can turn into a moment of pure terror. Haunted number 3, 999-9999. The Curse of 9. In many cultures, numbers carry profound symbolic weight. The number 9, for instance, is often associated with endings, finality, and even death. In Japan, the word for 9-ku sounds eerily similar to the word for suffering or torment. In other traditions, 9 is seen as a powerful, almost mystical number, tied to cycles of life and the inescapable approach of fate. But few numbers evoke as much dread as 999, 9999, a sequence that has earned its place in the annals of the paranormal. This particular number is said to come with a terrifying promise. If you dial 999-9999, you can make a wish, any wish. Wealth, power, love, revenge, it's all within your grasp. But the wish doesn't come freely. The price, that depends on what you ask for. Some say the number takes something of equal value, while others believe it chooses what to take, often with devastating consequences. The legend of 999 originates in Thailand, where stories about the cursed number began circulating in the late 1990s. Whispered among schoolchildren and shared in hushed tones by thrill-seekers, the tales always carried a warning: be careful what you wish for. The number's dark reputation soon spread beyond Thailand, becoming a global urban legend. But unlike many ghost stories, this one had a peculiar twist. Unlike the red numbers or 6666666, people weren't terrified of what might happen during the call, they were terrified of what would come after. Harrowing tales. One of the most haunting accounts tied to 999 involves a woman named Lila from Bangkok. According to the story, Lila was struggling financially, burdened by debts and the pressure of supporting her family. One night, after hearing about the cursed number from a friend, she decided to call it, dismissing the warnings as mere superstition. When the line connected, she claimed to hear a soft, emotionless voice asking a simple question: what do you wish for? Without hesitation, Lila wished for wealth, enough money to provide a better life for her children. The next morning, she woke to find an envelope stuffed with cash sitting on her kitchen table. At first she was overjoyed, convinced her wish had been granted. But her happiness quickly turned to horror. Over the following days, tragedy struck her family in a series of inexplicable events. Her husband was killed in a freak accident at work. Her eldest son fell gravely ill with an unknown disease. By the end of the week, Lila was left alone, her newfound wealth meaningless in the face of such devastating loss. She reportedly told friends that she regretted making the call but couldn't undo what had been done. Not long after, she disappeared, leaving behind only a cryptic note: "Beware of what you desire." Another chilling story comes from a college student in Malaysia who called 999 on a dare. The student, a young man named Daniel, was known for his skepticism. When he made the call, he jokingly wished for fame, brushing off his friends' warnings. Days later, he began receiving strange voicemails. One of them, which was later shared online, contained a low, rasping voice repeating his name over and over, followed by faint laughter. Soon after, Daniel vanished without a trace. His dorm room was left untouched, his belongings undisturbed, and his phone still on the bedside table, as if he had stepped out and never returned. The voicemail, though analyzed by experts, revealed no anomalies that could explain the eerie voice. To this day, Daniel's disappearance remains unsolved, fueling speculation that the cursed number had claimed another victim. The stories surrounding 999 raise a profound question. How far would you go to change your life? Would you make the call, knowing that the price of your wish might be more than you could bear? For some, the allure of instant gratification, money, success, love is too strong to resist, even in the face of dire warnings. But at what point does desperation outweigh caution? Skeptics argue that these tales are nothing more than urban myths, designed to entertain and frighten those who enjoy a good scare. After all, the concept of making a wish and paying a price is a theme that has appeared in countless stories throughout history, from Faustian bargains to cursed genies. Yet the consistency of the accounts, the eerie similarities in the experiences of those who have dialed 99999 suggest there may be more to this legend than mere coincidence. So, would you take the risk? Is the number just another viral hoax, or does it truly harbor a dark, otherworldly power? Perhaps the real horror lies not in the curse itself, but in the choices we make when faced with the possibility of getting everything we've ever wanted at a cost we may never fully understand. A quick reminder: if you're finding this story engaging, hit the subscribe button. It motivates us to keep sharing these powerful narratives and ensures you won't miss our next story. Haunted number 41000000000. The legend of the dead caller. Among the myriad of haunted phone numbers, one stands out as particularly sinister: 10000000000. Known as the dead caller, this number is said to act as a bridge between our world and the realm of the dead. The legend claims that dialing this number doesn't just connect you to a random voice or an eerie recording, it connects you to something far beyond our comprehension. The origins of this number are murky, though some trace it back to a now-defunct telecommunications company. Rumors suggest it was accidentally programmed as a looped emergency line, but instead became something far darker. Those who've called 100000000 report hearing a cacophony of static, as if the call is struggling to connect. But then, amidst the white noise, faint voices begin to emerge. Some describe them as cries for help, others as unintelligible whispers, as though dozens of people are speaking at once, but none can be understood. One of the most chilling aspects of this legend is the claim that these voices don't just belong to strangers, they often sound like loved ones who have passed away. Imagine hearing the voice of a deceased relative, distorted and faint, calling your name. Witnesses say the experience leaves them rattled, unable to sleep, haunted by the possibility that they truly spoke to someone on the other side. Others claim the voices issue cryptic warnings or beg for help, only for the call to abruptly end with a high-pitched screech or a chilling silence. Skeptics dismiss these stories as hoaxes, but the consistency of the reports is hard to ignore. And for those brave or foolish enough to dial the number, the experience is said to leave a permanent mark, a lingering sense of being watched, or worse, followed by something unseen. Haunted voicemail. One of the most infamous accounts tied to 1000000 comes from a man named Richard, a self-proclaimed skeptic who called the number on a dare. According to his testimony, the call itself was uneventful, just static and faint, unintelligible murmurs. But it wasn't until hours later, when he checked his voicemail, that the true horror began. The message was short, barely a minute long, but what it contained was enough to keep him awake for weeks. At first, the audio was muffled, almost like someone breathing heavily into the receiver. Then, faint cries could be heard in the background, growing louder with each passing second. The cries weren't human, not entirely at least. They were distorted, overlapping, as if coming from multiple sources. And then, just before the message ended, came a whisper, soft but unmistakable, "Don't call again." What makes Richard's story even more unsettling is what followed after he received that voicemail. He began experiencing vivid nightmares, often waking to find his phone glowing faintly in the dark, even when it was turned off. On one occasion, he reported hearing the same whispered warning, "Don't call again," while sitting alone in his apartment. The voicemail was later analyzed by experts who found no signs of tampering but noted strange distortions that couldn't be explained by standard audio interference. Some speculate that the voicemail was a prank, a carefully constructed hoax designed to spread fear. But for Richard, the experience felt all too real. He eventually changed his number, moved to a new city, and cut off contact with those who dared him to make the call. To this day, he refuses to talk about what happened that night, leaving behind only the chilling voicemail as evidence of his ordeal. Why do stories like these hold such power over us? Is it possible that the fear surrounding numbers like 10000000000 is entirely self-inflicted? Psychologists suggest that expectation plays a significant role in our experiences, particularly in situations where fear and anticipation are heightened. When we're told that a phone call will connect us to the dead, our minds are primed to interpret even the faintest sound as evidence of the supernatural. This phenomenon, known as confirmation bias, can turn ordinary occurrences into something extraordinary. For example, static on a phone line is common. But if you're expecting to hear voices, your brain may latch onto random patterns in the noise, transforming them into whispers or cries. Similarly, the power of suggestion can amplify our fear. If you believe a phone number is cursed, any misfortune that follows, no matter how mundane, can feel like proof of the curse. But there's another layer to consider: the role of collective fear. Urban legends like the dead caller thrive in an age where stories spread instantly through social media, gaining credibility through repetition. The more people share their experiences, the harder it becomes to separate fact from fiction. Even skeptics may find themselves doubting their disbelief when faced with a deluge of eerily similar accounts. And yet, there are elements of this legend that defy simple explanation. The voicemail Richard received, for instance, contained distortions that audio experts couldn't identify. Could it be that the number truly serves as a portal, a way for entities, whether real or imagined, to reach out? Or does the real horror lie in our own minds, in the way fear can twist reality into something far more terrifying? Perhaps the answer doesn't matter. Whether the legend of 100,000,000,000 is rooted in truth, or simply a product of our collective imagination, one thing is certain: it continues to captivate and terrify, reminding us that even the most ordinary objects, a phone, a number, a call, can become instruments of our darkest fears. Haunted number 5, 188-8888-88888. The phone of death. When you think of cursed phone numbers, none is more chilling than 188-888-888. Known as the phone of death, this number is shrouded in mystery and tied to a series of disturbing events that have left many questioning whether it's a mere coincidence or something far darker at play. The number gained notoriety in Bulgaria, where rumors began to circulate that every person who had ever owned it met a violent, untimely death. These weren't just ordinary deaths, each was marked by gruesome, mysterious circumstances. First, there was the businessman who bought the number in the early 2000s. Soon after he became its owner, he was found dead, under strange circumstances, his body discovered in a remote location, completely untouched by time or the elements. Authorities were baffled by the scene, as if he had simply vanished from existence. Over the years, more individuals connected to this number met similar fates. Some died in car accidents, others under unsolved circumstances, all of them with one chilling thing in common: they had all been connected to 188-888-888. It wasn't just the deaths that were unnerving, it was the eerie coincidence that Anyone who used this phone line seemed to be doomed to meet their end in a way that defied explanation. The number itself became a symbol of fear. As the legend grew, people avoided it, refusing to even mention its existence for fear that doing so might invoke its curse. Authorities, however, could find no tangible explanation, leading many to speculate. Could it be that this number was simply the product of a deeply ingrained superstition, or was there something more sinister at play? Mysterious disappearance. One of the most haunting stories connected to 188, 888, 888, 88 is that of a businessman named Viktor Vasilyev, who made headlines across Europe in the late 2000s. Viktor, a successful entrepreneur, had recently acquired the infamous phone number after a fierce bidding war for it. It was said that he believed the number would bring him good luck, as it was easy to remember, and would certainly stand out in the business world. But soon after Viktor began using the number, strange things started happening. He began receiving bizarre, anonymous calls. Some were silent, while others were nothing but strange, distorted sounds. Then he started seeing shadows moving in his office, reports of whispers in the dark. Friends claimed that Viktor became obsessed with the number, almost as if it were calling to him in some way. His colleagues described him as increasingly paranoid, fearing that his life was being controlled by something invisible. The turning point came one stormy night, when Viktor vanished without a trace. His car was found parked outside his office, but there was no sign of a struggle or foul play. His phone was still in the passenger seat, the screen cracked, and the number 188, 888, 888 idled on the call log. When investigators tried to track his movements, they found nothing, no footage, no witnesses. It was as if he had simply disappeared, as though the number had pulled him into a world from which there was no return. Weeks later, a grainy, anonymous video surfaced online, showing a blurry figure walking through the darkened streets of Sofia, Bulgaria. The figure was Viktor. But in the video he appeared dazed, his movements jerky and unnatural. The video ended abruptly, leaving viewers with one final chilling image: Viktor standing in front of a darkened alleyway, as if waiting for something or someone. Was it just another mysterious disappearance, or was there something more to Viktor's fate? Some believe that by using the number, Viktor had unknowingly activated a curse, becoming another victim of the phone of death. Could it be that the number itself was responsible for his disappearance? Or was it a tragic coincidence, an unfortunate victim of circumstances? The lack of evidence in the eerie video only deepened the mystery, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. As the years passed, the stories surrounding 188, 888, 888, 88 only grew more intense. But the dark legend took a new turn in 2015, when the Bulgarian government made the decision to retire the number entirely. The number was taken off the market, its use prohibited, and all previous connections to it were erased. The official explanation was that the number had become too associated with death and disaster, and as such, it would no longer be offered to the public. However, the closure of the number didn't put an end to the rumors. Conspiracy theories began to emerge, with some suggesting that the government had retired the number not out of superstition, but to prevent further deaths or even to suppress the truth. Some whispered that there was more to the number's dark history than was being revealed, that it was somehow tied to forces far beyond human understanding. Despite its retirement, 188, 888, 888, 88 remains a subject of fierce debate. Was it simply a string of tragic coincidences, or is there truly something supernatural tied to this number? Some argue that the deaths and disappearances were the result of psychological factors: stress, superstition, and perhaps the power of suggestion. But for many, the number's connection to death is inescapable. To this day, some refuse to even speak it out loud, fearing that doing so might invite the curse upon them. And so, the controversy lingers, like the shadow of the number itself. Is it all superstition, or is there something darker at play here? The truth may never be fully revealed, but one thing is certain: 188, 888, 888, 88 will forever be remembered as the phone of death, a number that brought nothing but misfortune to those who dared to own it. As we bring tonight's journey to a close, we're reminded of just how powerful fear can be. These phone numbers, seemingly harmless at first glance, have become something far more sinister in the minds of those who dare to call them. From the whispers in the dark of 666, 6 to the cryptic warnings of 100,000,000. Each number has its own tale, terror, a reminder that sometimes the things we can't see or don't understand are the most dangerous. The haunting truth of these stories is that they leave more questions than answers. Were these experiences simply the product of imagination and fear, or is there something darker at play? Perhaps it's not the numbers themselves that hold power, but the belief we place in them, the terror we invite with each dial. After all, what is fear if not the unknown? The uncertainty of what could be lurking on the other side of a call. Whether you believe in the supernatural or dismiss it as superstition, these stories stand as chilling reminders that some calls are better left unanswered. The unknown, after all, can be far more terrifying than any rational explanation. The narrator's voice takes on a more interactive, inviting tone, drawing listeners into the conversation. But now, I want to hear from you. Which of these haunted numbers sent a shiver down your spine? Was it the ominous whispers of 666, 666, the chilling experience of the red numbers, or perhaps the eerie, disturbing voicemail from 100,000,000,000? Do you think there's a logical explanation behind these stories? Or do you believe there's something far more sinister going on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear your opinions. And if you've had your own eerie phone call experience, don't be shy. Share your story with us. We might just feature it in a future video. Also, if you love exploring the unknown, diving into tales of the strange, the terrifying, and the unexplained, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join us as we continue to uncover the stories that keep us all on the edge of our seats. And remember, share this video with your bravest friends, because not everyone will be able to handle the unsettling truth behind these haunted numbers. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's unsettling tale. Thank you for joining us on this dark journey through the world of haunted phone numbers. It's never easy to face the unknown, but together we've uncovered some of the most chilling stories that still echo in the minds of those who dared to dial these cursed digits. If you enjoyed tonight's exploration into the terrifying and unexplained, trust me, you're going to want to stay with us for our next video. We're diving deep into the world's most cursed websites. These sites aren't your typical internet pages. Some have been known to drive people to madness. Others have been linked to inexplicable events. So, if you think the world of haunted phone numbers is chilling, just wait until we uncover the darker side of the internet, a place where reality blurs with nightmare. We'll be exploring true stories of people who stumbled upon these sites and found themselves facing horrors they never expected. From mysterious messages to cryptic warnings, the line between the digital world and the supernatural has never been so thin. You won't want to miss it. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out, and keep the lights on, because the next story is even darker than this one. But before we go, I want to leave you with something. An unsettling reminder of the unknown that still lurks in the shadows. Listen closely, and remember, sometimes the most innocent things can carry the darkest secrets. Good night, and remember, don't answer the call.